Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kickstart Your Company's Conversations with Expert Entrepreneurs, If I Had Only Known. My name is Cheryl Scoffield, and I'm the follow-up specialist at Kickstart Your Company. Thank you for joining us to listen in and discover behind-the-scenes insights from an expert entrepreneur that'll save you hours of time and stacks of money. The reason I started these conversations is because I experienced as a business owner and discovered speaking with others that we often build our company on our own. And as a result, we can get off course and end up in tall weeds wondering, now what? But when you have mentors and a mastermind group that provide a sounding board for your ideas and concerns, it's just so much easier to discover the right strategies that you'll need to confidently move forward and build your company. If you have any questions about business growth strategies to build your company, why not join the conversation? Send your questions to me, Cheryl, at kickstartyourcompany.com, and I'll find an expert who can give you the insight that you need to navigate past challenges. These conversations center on the question, what business growth strategies have you discovered along the way that you wish you had known earlier? Because that knowledge would have made growing your business just so much easier. I love having these conversations because I want to find out what other successful business owners would have done differently to grow their business if they'd only known. So let's get started with today's conversation. If you're managing a company in Ontario, you know it's busy and you have to cover a lot of bases to ensure your company is successful. And sometimes we hear of shortcuts that really end up being long cuts, and it can be frustrating because we have to go back and fix things that could have been done correctly right from the start if we'd only known. If you've ever had this experience, then you'll find today very enlightening, because during this conversation, a successful commercial insurance account executive who knows the ropes is going to reveal how you can be best in class right from the start. You'll learn this and other insider secrets because the person that you're about to meet is an expert. Her name is Judi Smith, and she's a commercial insurance account executive with Aon Risk Services. And they are the largest insurance broker in the world. And Judi is a chartered insurance professional and a certified risk manager. Welcome, Judi, to Conversations with Expert Entrepreneurs, If I Had Only Known.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate you inviting me in to discuss business insurance with you.
And I'm excited to have Judi on the conversation because she's going to explain how your insurance is impacted by your actions and how you can have a positive effect on your premiums. And I know at some point we've all wished we'd known more so we could navigate the often complex world of insurance. So I'm dying to hear what you have to say, Judi.
Thanks, Cheryl. Today I'm going to talk about being best in class. What does that mean, and what does that do for business owners with respect to their insurance policies? I'm going to explain how underwriters rate policies and what being best in class will do to help you reduce your premiums. And I'm also going to get into specific areas of coverage to give tips about how you can be best in class. I will talk about specific exposures different businesses face, and then I'm going to wrap it up with some information about my firm. Every day we make choices. Will I never, sometimes, often, or always do what I'm supposed to? As a business owner, you know what happens when you cut corners. It's likely to cause a mistake. Will that mistake be affordable? Can you live with it? Will others be able to live with it? What we're talking about is your company's reputation in the community. Probably all heard the term being ISO. What that means is that a company who is ISO adheres to a strict rule of how they manufacture their products and comply with quality control. They don't have an option as to never, sometimes, or often to do things. They always do things a certain way, the right way. ISO companies are recognized by underwriters as being best in class. There are other factors that impact, but it shows that there is a procedure to do things, and it's always done the same way. This will avoid the likelihood of something going wrong in their process. What I find is all businesses have many things in common. They all need insurance, they usually all have employees, and they certainly all have customers, at least one. In addition, all businesses must comply with government regulations and laws. Most people want to pay as little as they can for their insurance, Obviously, nobody wants to pay more than they have to. And every business is unique. Some businesses deal with the general public and have to be really careful about things like clearing snow from their walkway and salting or sanding. Whereas other businesses are on the wholesale side. They may not have a lot of traffic coming in, but they may need to concentrate on things like proper maintenance for their equipment. So what does it mean to be best in class? When I speak of this from an insurance standpoint, of course, many of the points are going to transcend to a general conversation. But to an insurance underwriter, it means that you're well-run, organized, clean, on top of your business. You understand who your suppliers are, where your product's coming from, and you have an awareness of the businesses that supply to you and the quality they offer you. You have policies and procedures in place to ensure you and your staff do things in the best possible way. And even if you're not ISO, you can still have a quality control system that you've implemented that works well for you and your employees that you always follow. Why do you care about being best in class? Well, first, you're going to pay less for your insurance. And second, you're going to reduce the likelihood of an expense, whether it's an insured peril or not. In order to understand how being best in class impacts on your premium, you really need to understand how premiums are determined. And there are so many factors, but in Canada, insurance underwriters can adjust premiums up to 65%. So depending on how you answer their questions. Our liability and property rates are not regulated like our auto insurance is. So Canadian underwriters have more flexibility than our American counterparts when it comes to underwriting policies. If you want to look at it as applying for a bank loan, it's very similar. A bank can charge different interest rates depending on the criteria that you have, and it works the same way for insurance. So there's many factors that impact this. What do you do? Where do you do it? And how much do you do it? So what's your turnover? What are your sales? Those are the three key factors to determine a liability premium. And then the rest of the points that I'm going to talk about in this next section really are the parts that you can control and will help you reduce your premiums. If, for example, you're highly experienced in your field of business and you promote that, or you have a field of people who are very experienced, this will help you pay less for your insurance. Even if you're a new company, it will still show that you know a lot about your industry. Do you have claims? If you're not a new company and you've experienced claims, what kind of claims were they? Were they within your control, or are they part of the industry that you're involved in? What have you done to prevent these claims from happening again? So the first question the underwriter will ask is, what was the severity and nature? What happened? What was paid out? Is there a frequency issue? And what have you done to correct these things from happening again? Because they need to have confidence in your business if they're going to offer you a policy. So when we look at businesses that are very risky, an example comes to mind to me of people who manufacture windows for condos in downtown Toronto. We know there's been an issue with falling glass. That industry is going to pay more for their insurance no matter if they're best in class or not. But if they're not best in class, they may not even be offered insurance at all. So they really have to do everything they can in their control to appear to be best in class and always act in a proper manner. Other factors that will impact your liability rate will be based on your property exposures. Is it a safe, well-run, well-maintained building? Is it well-lit? Do you have an alarm? Is it monitored? Does it include smoke detection? A lot of people ask me when they're going to move, what should they look for in a building? And so I'll tell them, try and be near a fire station, have hydrants protected. If you're going to put in an alarm, why not install smoke detection at the same time? It may cost a very nominal fee, but it could save you as much as 5% off your property rates or make a difference in who even offers you insurance. Do you have a fence? Would the fence prevent people from coming onto your property? Do you operate 24 hours a day? Do you have good housekeeping habits? Do you have a computerized record of all of the scheduled cleaning and maintenance that you follow? Do you use safe products? Do you store them properly? All of these factors are part of being best in class. I would say one of the number one areas of being best in class is your policies and procedures. No matter who you are, you have to have them. For example, do you have a policy in place to ensure the proper handling of all your products? Even if you're not a large company, we still have cleaning solvents, and under WMIS, we're required to store them in a proper way. Most shops that I deal with have cutting oils and cleansers and other compounds. How are these handled? Are they stored in metal containers? Are they separated from dirty rags? Are these procedures commonly communicated? Is there signage on the wall to make sure that people remember what to do? So it doesn't matter, big or small, everybody has exposures that they have to deal with, and being aware of them and being on top of it will help you reduce your costs with insurance. The same thing goes for employment practice issues. For example, modern director and officers' policies will pick up legal expenses. So if you have a policy in place, then obviously the insurance company wants to know that you have policies and procedures to handle how you hire, how do you fire, how do you reprimand. I don't think a lot of business owners realize that the number one lawsuit being launched in Canada today is by employees against employers. And these lawsuits are not being brought against the GMs and Procter & Gamble's of the world. They're being brought against the small privately owned business owner because they're more vulnerable. It's actually a shock when you look at the stats. Having a good human resource person in place will help you navigate this. Many business owners aren't in a position to hire an HR person, but certainly there are out-of-house services that can come in and give you a couple of hours to set up policy and procedure and check on you from time to time as regulation changes. I don't know if people are aware that Bill 168, which was implemented, I believe, 2 years ago from the Liberal government, makes you responsible for your employees' behavior towards each other. If your employees have a fight or are mean to each other, you can actually be brought to court for this. There was an example of a large company who had a $130,000 payout to an employee because every time this woman walked into the lunchroom, a bunch of ladies made fun of her and would say things like, "Oh, does it smell in here?" Well, one of the ladies making fun of her was a manager, so the company was responsible for her behavior. If you know things are going on, you have to address it. That's what being best in class is about, knowing all angles of your company and understanding where you're vulnerable. It's not just from the outside, but often from the inside. When we talk about the outside, government regulation cannot be ignored. Ontario is, to me, the most regulated province in all of Canada and probably one of the most regulated parts of the world. Back in 2009, the Liberal government had introduced a law, the Ontario Regulatory Mandate Act. And what it does is it punishes businesses that have ever had an issue with any government regulation by doubling fines. So when it comes to the government, there is no privacy law. They are allowed to share all the information with the Crown Attorney. So if, for example, in 2004 you had a Ministry of Labor issue and were charged, that will come out in the file if you're charged today on any other area. So Ontario Fire Code, Ministry of Environment, everybody's connected to everybody. When we go back to talking about best in class, even if you've had a charge, let's say the Ministry of Environment has charged you with a spillage of some sort, when an underwriter goes to look at your company, the first thing they do is Google you. They go to look for your website, and what pops up? The fact that you were charged by the Ministry of Environment. So you may think, well, how does that affect my insurance? The fact is, it doesn't put a good taste in an underwriter's mouth to think that you've been mismanaged and been fined. So it does paint the picture. And same with credit. There are many underwriters who are acknowledging that they do checks done in Bradstreet and credit scores. They feel if you don't have a good credit rating, then you may not be as good a risk. So they are connecting the dots. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you have a good payment history? Then there's the discussion of product liability and supply chain management. Everything from your materials to how many customers you have to where you do business all impacts on your liability rates. For example, are you bringing in product from China? We know that there's been quality control issues with China, and underwriters really do not want to be insuring anything that comes from there. For example, do you sell dog food? Are some of the ingredients coming from China? You need to know that. Where do your products come from? Do you require a certificate of authenticity from your suppliers? Would you be able to identify where your product is going if there was a product recall? And that's an interesting question. We all hear every day in the news about different recalls, especially in automotive and sometimes food industries. Are you in a position to know where your product went to? Even if you can't afford to purchase product recall insurance, it would be very helpful to you to be in that position. And even though they may not be offering you this coverage or you choose not to buy it, if you are in a position where you do know where your product's going and it is numbered and traceable, you will also find this will help you spend less money on your insurance. There was a story that I heard recently about a gentleman who had a company. When I say had a company, after you hear the story, you'll hear why. Manufacturing and selling reindeers that sit on your lawn and light up at Christmas time. He had offshored that product to China, and when he got his first batch, they all looked perfect. Once they were in the home hardware, where he had a big contract to all the home hardwares across Canada, the CSA inspector had looked at his product, looked at the CSA label, saw it was a knockoff, and had every reindeer and ornamental item removed from the store. He had to go around Canada having pickups done, and when product comes back into your warehouse rather than going out, it causes a huge nightmare. The costs were over $900,000 for him. So knowing where your product comes from is very key. Who do you sell to? Do you have high U.S. sales? That will impact your rating, and you certainly don't want to lose business by not selling to the U.S., but are there things you can do to reduce your exposure? That's a whole discussion, so I won't get into that, but if anyone has questions on that, they can reach out to me at the end of this. I will let you know how to reach me. Transportation, exposures, all have an effect on your ratings as well. One of the points that have come out in studies is that cleanliness actually does impact on your safety and surprisingly improves productivity. So it's funny how when you look at doing something like being clean, that is one of the number one areas of being best in class. I also want to talk about market conditions and the cyclical market that insurance industry is known for. Sometimes it takes 10 years in between a cycle, but just like real estate, we go through hard and soft markets. Currently, we're in a soft market, and what that means is underwriters want to write business and are really giving great low premiums. Back in 2003, 2004, we saw market conditions change, and people were getting 400% increases in their insurance, even though they had had no claim and no change in their business conditions. Being best in class is really critical for so many areas of your business, but if we do see a hard market, and many people say it's not if, it's just a question of when it does come, capacity shrinks, offerings lessen, and everything tightens up, rates go up. If you're not best in class, it's not a question even about saving money. It's a question when it comes to insurance about even having an offer. And we've seen changes in the marketplace. So operating as best in class in all market conditions is obviously the best way to go. The role of the broker, to highlight all that you do that's excellent, and to obtain as many credits as possible so you'll get the best coverage at the best terms. Our job is to discuss your exposures, determine a course of action, look at areas of loss control or even avoidance, and if you do have a claim, help you get paid quickly and fully. Whether you have insurance to cover an issue or not, you need to have a good legal defense. Many of the policies that we offer are considered legal defense policies. Whether you have an insurance policy or you have to hire your own lawyer, you always want to operate in a way to have documentation to prove that you're always doing things in the best-in-class way so that you can defend yourself properly if needed. Questions we ask our clients are you in control of your business? For example, do you keep records? Do you have copies of all the details and data that's up to date? In summary, a company who's best in class will pay less for their insurance because they've demonstrated to the insurance underwriter that they know what they're doing, they care, and they're on top of all those loose ends. In addition to paying less for your coverage, you may find that you're being offered more coverages, higher limits, and that not only being best in class from an insurance perspective, but it helps spiral your company up into best in class amongst your peers.
Thank you very much for appearing on Conversations with Expert Entrepreneurs, Judi. You really have contributed a lot of information here today. And I know this is a topic, a very complex one. There's a lot of different angles, so I'm sure that people who were listening got a lot of insight from the information, the expertise that you had shared.
Thanks, Cheryl. You know, I just wanted to say how much help you've been to me in my career in helping me put my profile out in a really professional, polished manner. It's got a great skill set, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, great. Thanks, Judi.
Thank you very much for allowing me an opportunity to talk about loss control concerns and being best in class. There are other areas of discussion like intellectual property, computer usage, having proper backup, cyber exposure. You can reach out to me via LinkedIn, via my email address, which is judy.smith@aon.ca. I have a toll-free number, which is 1-855-777-4342. And if you'd like to connect with me, I can send you information about other potential areas of exposure you may be concerned about, and also include a 20-minute free consultation to discuss your specific business needs.
That's awesome, Judi. You know, there's just so many great points you made, and I know that a lot of people have things that they're thinking about. They can contact me and get those questions answered. I know people can recognize from hearing the things that Judi has to say that she really is an expert in her field. One of the reasons that I chose her to be on Conversations with Expert Entrepreneurs is because she's been asked to speak at the expert level. Because some of the organizations, for example, that she's involved with is the Heavy Construction Association of the region of Niagara, the American Chamber of Commerce, the Niagara Construction Association Women in Construction, the Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association, the Ontario Aerospace Council, Women in Aerospace, and the Manufacturing Innovation Network. So those are just some of the places that she contributes her expertise. So thank you very much again, Judi, for sharing with us today on Kickstart Your Company's Conversations with Expert Entrepreneurs. And for those of you who are listening today, a link of the recording will be emailed to you. And remember, you can join the conversation anytime by sending your questions to me, Cheryl, at kickstartyourcompany.com. And please join me on the first Wednesday of the month at 12 noon for another conversation with an expert entrepreneur. Thank you.